Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really high-stakes topic. We are looking at the strategic implementation of artificial intelligence across pharmaceutical supply chains. It's one of the most complex transformations happening right now. So our mission today is to give you a complete shortcut. We're going to map out the massive potential of AI here, where the money is, where the value is, but we also have to get real about why so many of these projects just stall. They never get past the pilot phase. And most importantly, we need to lay out the actual strategic roadmap for success, drilling down into things like data integrity standards and some of these next-generation AI tools.
And this isn't really optional anymore, is it? It's becoming essential. I mean, the whole push is for more efficiency, more visibility, especially after the last few years. And if you look at the money, the pharmaceutical AI market is projected to hit something like US $16.49 billion by 2034. That growth is completely driven by the industry's need for resilience and speed.
And the upside is it's immediate and it's dramatic. The research we looked at shows AI can slash forecasting errors by up to 50%. And forecasting is like the Achilles heel of any supply chain. So that reduction translates directly into cutting lost sales, cutting product unavailability by up to 65%. I mean, those numbers, that's why every CEO is focused on this.
Absolutely. So let's unpack that investment. To really get why the market is that big, you have to look at where AI is delivering, verifiable value. And it really starts with just predicting what you're going to need. AI is just fantastic at demand forecasting and inventory. It uses machine learning to look at historical data, seasonal trends, even things like public health data to predict demand. This is what prevents those catastrophic stockouts and, frankly, just reduces the huge number of manual errors that plague these systems.
And when you fix those errors, you're immediately improving the metrics that your customers actually care about.
Precisely. It hits your core metrics right away. OTIF, which is on time, in full.
Right, getting the right product to the right place.
At the right time. And ATT, available to promise, which is your system telling a customer, yes, I can actually commit to delivering this. That's the bedrock of trust. Beyond that, you have the more standard logistics optimization, processing real-time data to find the most efficient delivery routes.
But I want to pause on something unique to pharma. It's not like shipping sneakers. You're dealing with a cold chain. These temperature-sensitive drugs have requirements that they exponentially increase the risk.
And that's where the high stakes get. Well, they get terrifyingly real. For these drugs, AI is integrated with IoT devices, sensors, monitors that track conditions in real time every step of the way. You have to know if a container hits a weird heat pocket or if a freezer unit in a warehouse fails. And this is so critical because, and this number is just shocking, pharmaceutical companies lost more than $35 billion in 2021 alone, just from products spoiling in the cold chain.
$35 billion in a single year, just from temperature changes. Wow, that is a staggering liability.
It is. And AI lets you intervene. You get an alert the second a temperature threshold is breached, so you can reroute that product, you can save it, you stop the spoilage before it happens. And finally, AI completely transforms risk management. Instead of waiting for a disaster, it simulates disruptions. Things like, what if a key supplier in one region goes down? Or a port strike happens? It uses those simulations to create pre-approved contingency plans, finding alternative suppliers before you ever need them.
So if you put all that together, what does it really mean at the highest level for the whole industry?
It all comes back to the mission, patient outcomes. Every single efficiency, from saving that $35 billion to optimizing a route, it all ensures timely delivery, maintains drug quality, and ultimately supports patient health.
Okay, so that brings us to the really crucial part of this dive, the implementation reality. The promise is there, it's incredible, but the execution is, well, it's proven to be extremely difficult. We know 90% of big pharma companies have started AI projects, but they just get stuck. They can't get past that pilot phase. Why is it so hard?
It really comes down to fragmentation and a lack of a single cohesive strategy for the whole enterprise. They'll prove a concept works in one factory on one line, but they just can't bridge that gap to scale it everywhere.
So they need a blueprint. The source material we looked at outlines a pretty clear strategic roadmap. Can you walk us through those phases?
It starts with phase 1, assessment and planning. And you have to be ruthless here. A thorough evaluation of your current systems, your data quality, your workforce skills. The goal isn't just a proof of concept. It's an AI strategy that actually aligns with your real organizational goals. Then you move right into phase 2, Data strategy and governance. This is the absolute bedrock. You have to centralize your data management and ensure total compliance with regulations, GDPR, HPA. Without that, you can't scale. It's impossible.
And only after those first two are really locked down can you even think about phase three, which is the pilot projects and, crucially, the scaling.
Exactly. You start small, high priority areas, but the key is that the pilot has to be designed with scalability baked in from the start. That's how you build momentum.
Okay, so let's talk about the roadblocks. Even with that roadmap, where are they tripping up? What stops them from scaling?
There are three main hurdles that come up again and again. First, and this is probably the biggest technical one, is data quality and integration. The data is it's fragmented, it's trapped in these old proprietary silos. Second is regulatory compliance. I mean, the validation needed for any new system that touches product quality is strict and it is expensive. And the third one, this is often the silent project killer, is workforce skills and cultural adaptation. There's a talent shortage, sure, but the bigger issue is this profound cultural resistance. The research calls it a frozen state approach. We've done it this way for 20 years and never got a warning letter, so why on earth would we risk changing now?
That frozen state must be paralyzing, especially when the stakes are literally life and death. How do you even begin to overcome that?
Well, leadership has to model some risk acceptance, but they also have to address the real fear underneath, which is audit fear. The anxiety is that if you automate something, you lose visibility, and an auditor will just invalidate your whole process. That's why the technical fixes have to have compliance baked in from day one.
Which brings us right back to the data, that major technical hurdle, these old legacy systems that are essential but outdated. How do you bridge that gap without just ripping out billions of dollars of infrastructure?
The solution is really twofold: cloud platforms and a smart API strategy. Cloud platforms are necessary for the scale, the security, the centralized access you need to feed an AI model, and they let you keep the valuable logic from your legacy systems while you modernize the front end. Now, for the legacy systems themselves, you need APIs. Think of API wrapping as like putting a universal adapter on an old plug. Suddenly, that ancient system can talk to modern apps without rewriting its core code. And at the same time, you bring in middleware like an enterprise service bus, which acts like a traffic cop, making sure all these different systems speak a common language.
And as soon as you start talking about bridging those silos, you run headfirst into the iron law of pharma data. You can't just connect things and hope for the best. You have to follow the mandatory standard for data integrity, LCOA plus IR. We've seen that trend of regulatory warning letters for data integrity just going up and up since 2008. So LCOA plus is not optional. It is the foundation.
Right. And this is a crucial nugget for you to remember because it applies to every single piece of data. LACOA Plus defines the core requirements for any data record in pharma. So LACOA stands for attributable. You can trace it back to who collected it. Legible. You can read it now and decades from now. Contemporaneous. It was recorded at the exact time of the event with accurate timestamps. Original. It has to be the original record or a certified true copy. And of course, accurate. It has to reflect reality. The plus just adds that the data also has to be complete, consistent, enduring, and available for auditors.
Okay, so that move from messy, fragmented data to this clean, centralized, trustworthy data. That's what enables a whole shift from reactive to proactive, from waiting for disaster to using AI-driven operations. And we're seeing tools like Microsoft Copilot in Dynamics 365 really pushing this change.
Yeah, and what's fascinating there is something called dynamic inventory optimization. This is an evolution. We're moving so far beyond just setting predetermined stock levels once a quarter. AI is now continuously monitoring and adjusting inventory based on real-time demand, market shifts, everything. It recommends optimal safety stock levels for every location, every day.
But doesn't that just create analysis paralysis? I mean, for a supply chain manager, is that just too much information?
It shouldn't, because the key difference is these AI co-pilots provide actionable recommendations. The manager isn't sifting through data points. The AI is telling them, hey, based on that port slowdown, you need to increase safety stock of compound X by 15% in Europe today, and here are your two best alternative suppliers.
That completely changes the job. The manager goes from analyst to strategic decision maker. This is risk sensing on a whole new level. Traditional risk management was, an annual review? Now, AI is scanning the horizon constantly for threats.
And that speed and breadth is the whole game. It can connect seemingly unrelated events that a human team just couldn't link fast enough. And we can measure this benefit. 50% of survey respondents said better risk sensing was a key benefit of going digital, and that trickles all the way down. Deloitte found that 48% reported real warehouse efficiencies from automating things like picking and packing.
This speed, this complexity, it brings us to the highest stakes of what people are calling Pharma 4.0. It's this dual challenge of intense regulatory compliance, GXP, and this drastically expanding cybersecurity threat.
Let's start with AI validation. Right now, there is no single, universally accepted regulatory framework for AI in pharma. And that ambiguity is a major reason projects get stuck in pilot mode forever. So companies have to develop their own robust, heavily documented validation plans that include what's called explainable AI, or XAI.
Explainable AI, XAI. That sounds critical. Why does an auditor need that?
Because the AI is making GXP decisions. It might decide to reject a batch or reroute a shipment. An auditor needs to know why. XAI gives you that transparency. It doesn't just give you the answer. It shows you the data, the logic, the confidence levels that led to that decision. It allows QA teams and auditors to trace the outcome and validate the system itself.
And on the other side of that coin, security. You mentioned pharma as a golden target. Why is this IP and data so uniquely valuable?
It's really threefold. First, the R&D cost is astronomical, so the IP is priceless. Second, medical data is probably the most valuable thing on the black market, worth way more than credit card numbers. And third, the supply chain itself, with this mix of old and new tech, just has dozens of weak points for attackers. So to fight that, the essential strategy now is zero trust security. The principle is simple: never trust, always verify. It assumes every access attempt, even inside the firewall, is a threat. It enforces least privileged access and continuous authentication at every single point.
So security isn't just an IT problem anymore, it's a validation problem. For an AI system in a GXP environment, security has to be part of that validation, proving the system is hardened against attacks that could compromise product quality.
Exactly. If your data isn't secure, your AI is worthless and your product is at risk.
Now, a lot of this sounds expensive. Cloud platforms, huge API projects, GXP validation. It sounds like something only the biggest pharma giants can afford. But is AI becoming more accessible for, small and medium enterprises, the SMEs?
Oh, absolutely. The barrier to entry is dropping fast. We're seeing huge global adoption. For instance, 78% of SMBs surveyed in India are already exploring or using AI. They're using new tools that don't require that massive upfront capital.
That's great news. So what are the practical strategies for those leaner teams?
Well, they often use a modular IoT implementation. So instead of a massive rollout, they start small. Maybe they just focus on environmental monitoring in one warehouse and scale up from there using open source parts. And crucially, they lean on SaaS-based AI platforms. These are subscription models, pay as you go, so you don't need a huge capital investment or a big in-house data science team.
And I imagine the payoff for those smaller teams is even more dramatic. They have less bloat to begin with.
Precisely. By automating the routine work scheduling, invoicing employees who used AI reported spending 40% more of their time on high-value strategic work. And for a small team, that's everything.
So let's just recap this journey. We've gone from the incredible potential of AI, eliminating that $35 billion in cold chain spoilage, all the way through the necessary foundations of APIs and the strict rules of LLCOA+, and then looking ahead to these proactive AI co-pilots and zero trust security.
And the commitment to get there is real. 78% of leaders we saw surveyed are putting more than 20% of their improvement budgets towards smart manufacturing, AI, cloud, data analytics. The companies that really commit to this, that finally tackle those integration and validation hurdles, they're going to gain a competitive advantage that will last for decades.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. We know that AI success depends entirely on clean, trustworthy, standardized data. So, how might the intense regulatory pressure from standards like ALCOA+, which forces companies to clean up their data act, how might that pressure inadvertently be the very thing that accelerates the digital transformation they need to finally scale AI beyond the pilot phase? Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.